Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Friedrich Nietzsche. They told you love would save you, that it would be pure, redemptive, unconditional, that the right woman would heal the cracks you've never dared to face alone. Childhood from stories, from songs. They whispered a promise into your subconscious. One day someone will come and make everything okay. And you believed it. Not because you're weak, not because you're naive, but because you were never given the tools to see through the illusion. What if that promise was never meant to be kept? What if the love you've been searching for is not salvation but strategy? And what if Nietzsche, the philosopher you've been told to fear or misunderstand, saw it all coming? Nietzsche didn't write fairy tales. He wrote like a scalpel, cutting through masks, through myths, through the emotional comfort zones we build around our egos. And when he looked at love, at women, at the way we relate to each other, what he saw wasn't pretty, it wasn't polite, but it was real, and most of us, especially men, still aren't ready to hear it, because here's the truth: you don't love her. You love the version of her that reflects who you wish you were. You love the way she validates you, the way her presence says you are enough. But validation is not love, and what you call love might just be a carefully curated illusion that keeps you emotionally obedient. Women Nietzsche noticed had to master power in a world that denied them visibility. They weren't given swords, so they learned to fight with silence. They weren't offered control, so they mustered influence. Not because they are inherently manipulative, but because they were forced to operate from the shadows while men claimed the light, and that's where the modern man still fails to see clearly. You mistake strategy for softness. You confuse adaptability with innocence. You think she's fragile. You think her love is unconditional. You think her tenderness is purity. It's not. It's power, refined, rehearsed, and executed with precision. While you spill your emotions and call it vulnerability, she is scanning your words for leverage. While you dream of soulmates, she is calculating the cost of closeness, weighing need against control. Desire against influence, not maliciously, instinctively, because she learned a long time ago that the one who sees the game but doesn't speak of it wins. And what about you? You were raised to idealize, to put her on a pedestal so high that it excuses your blindness. You don't see the strategy because you don't want to. You prefer the dream, the muse, the good girl, the healer. But what if those roles are masks? Masks she's learned to wear because they work? Nietzsche exposed the lie not to destroy women, but to destroy the stories men tell themselves about women, because as long as you believe she is morally superior by nature, as long as you believe her affection is without motive, you will continue to surrender your agency in exchange for emotional security. And she will accept that power not because she hates you, but because the system taught her to use it. You are not being loved, you are being handled. And the scariest part is you like it that way. You like the comfort, you like the worship, you like the emotional anesthesia that lets you avoid yourself. Because the moment you stop needing her to be your redemption, you'll have to face what's behind your need. And that, not heartbreak, is what truly terrifies you. But fear wears many disguises, and one of its favorites is romantic devotion. You think you're loving her purely, you think you're giving yourself freely. But look deeper. What you're offering is not love, it's bargaining. You're saying, if I give you my heart, will you fix the parts of me I don't want to face? You're not seeking a partner. You're seeking a solution, and while you offer your soul in search of comfort, she's listening not to your words, but to your needs. Not because she's cruel, but because every vulnerability you reveal becomes a map. a map of your emotional pressure points, and she learns them quickly, not to hurt you, but to position herself in your psyche where she becomes indispensable. Nietzsche saw this. He saw that what we call love is often just a subtle contest for emotional real estate. Who controls the rhythm of closeness, who withholds first, who gives in last. These are not questions of affection, they're questions of power. And here's the uncomfortable truth, the one who needs less controls more. You give her everything, time, attention, identity. You call that honesty. She gives you what you crave, just enough to keep you chasing. She calls that connection, but it isn't connection, it's choreography. We've built a culture where women are taught to influence without appearing to lead, and men are taught to submit while thinking they're conquering. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. It's the result of centuries of conditioning where men dominated the outer world and women mastered the inner one. And now, in modern love, you walk right into the trap smiling. She doesn't need to argue, she needs to suggest. She doesn't need to demand, she needs to desire, and in doing so she shapes you, your decisions, your identity. While without ever raising her voice, that's not manipulation. That's mastery. You call her mysterious because you don't understand her. You don't understand her because you've never questioned your own myths. You still think love is about unity. She knows love is about leverage, and when she pulls away, it haunts you. Not because she's gone, but because your reflection left with her. Nietzsche would say you never loved her. You loved the way she made you feel about yourself. She was the stage where you performed your worth. Now the stage is gone and you're left with silence and the truth. And here it is, she didn't deceive you. She simply stopped playing the role you wrote for her. You didn't see her. You saw your idea of her, and when she stopped performing it, you called her cold. You called her cruel, but maybe the real betrayal was yours for loving a fantasy and expecting her to live inside it. Nietzsche didn't condemn women. He condemned men who refused to grow up, who wanted muses instead of mirrors, who begged for angels instead of daring to face human beings in all their glorious, terrifying complexity. If you're ready to stop blaming her, then you're ready to look at yourself not with guilt, not with shame, with clarity, and from clarity something radical can begin, not the end of love, but its transformation. You were taught that love is the highest virtue, that a love selflessly is the mark of a good man. But what if that selflessness is just another mask for emotional dependency? What if beneath the poetic gestures and grand declarations there's a quiet fear? I don't give everything, she won't stay. And so you offer more, you compromise more, you erase parts of yourself to become what you think she wants, not because you love her, but because you fear being without her. This isn't nobility, it's submission disguised as romance. And while you think you're being brave, she feels something else entirely. Control, not through force, through presence, through your willingness to orbit around her approval. Because here's the truth Nietzsche hinted at: when so few are willing to hear love when rooted in need is never equal. She may not ask you to change, but you change anyway. She may not demand your obedience, but you give it anyway. Why? Because you've convinced yourself that her acceptance is your salvation. But she didn't ask to be your savior. She was just being herself, and you turned that into a mirror of your worth. And when that mirror cracks, you don't just feel loss, you feel collapse, because it wasn't love you were protecting. It was the story that says if she loves me, I am whole. If she stays, I matter. But stories aren't truth, and when reality intrudes, you call it betrayal. Nietzsche would call it awakening. The lie is not that she has power, the lie is that you didn't see it. You called her gentle, but she was observant. You called her nurturing, but she was strategic. You thought she surrendered, but she was choosing, always choosing, because she understood something you never did. The one who sees the dynamic clearly holds the key. And now finally the illusion begins to crack. You remember moments when she smiled, but something behind the smile was calculating. You remember how your smallest emotional shifts were answered before you even voiced them. You thought she was intuitive, and she was. But intuition for her is survival. It's her way of staying a step ahead in a world that never gave her the power to confront, only the power to shape. This isn't about blame. This is about reality. You live in a world where love is sold as mutual surrender but practiced as mutual leverage, where vulnerability is branded as a virtue but used as currency. And the moment you realize this, you either grow up or you break down. Most choose to break. They go back to the myth. They look for another muse, another emotional performance partner. They say this time will be different, but it won't. Because the roles haven't changed, only the actors have. And until you stop needing her to play the part, you'll never meet the person behind the mask. But what happens when the mask is gone, when you stop seeking roles and start seeing reality, you begin to notice what was always there. Not manipulation, not malice, but instinct. A woman aware of her lack of institutional power, mastering relational power instead. Not because she wants to control you, but because this is the only power she's been allowed to have. So yourself, not if she's ready to love. You ask if you're ready to see her without the myth, because only then can you see yourself, and only then does love stop being a story and become a revolution. If this opened your eyes, if it made you uncomfortable in a way that felt true, then share it, like it, and subscribe. Not for entertainment, but because you're done with illusions and ready to see things as they are. If this transformed you even a little, help it reach someone else who's ready.